So good day everyone. Yeah, I just thought I'd catch up with you guys. Basically, some of you have been following my RC rebuild and my maiden ride, which was yesterday. As part of this bike, basically it always was intended to be a daily ride and a running project. So there's a few little things that I wanted to do after it had been registered to just improve it. Now, one of the things, especially on the 1100 RC, is it is high compression, and the bike that I've just completed isn't just high compression. It's had a CB900 cylinder head put on it, so it's running 12:1 compression. Now the starter clutches on the 1100s are weak to say the least. The 900 can sustain it, but the 1100 is a little bit weak. So some guys out there, I'm not claiming any credit for this, have been and actually found that the Yamaha R6 clutch from circa 1998 to 2002 can be modified to do a great upgrade on the 1100. Now this has been defined, and Keith Goodman in the UK has done a few of these and has actually done a document. What I wanted to do is put update it in a video, and I thought I'd just take the opportunity. I've started doing it, but I've wound back a bit to do this video. Now, one of the first things that I came across is that when you get your crank, normally you have to buy the whole crank with the flywheel on the end. And I guess the reason for that is actually to remove the flywheel isn't an easy process, as I've found myself. So basically, what I started off with, I spoke to Keith, and he said he actually cuts the end of the crank off to make things easier. But then the problem is, as he pointed out, you need the flywheel as the jig. So you've got to get this flywheel off. So you can get a puller, but actually, a three-legged puller isn't actually easy to get on here. So I thought, well, the easiest thing is to make a puller similar to what Yamaha probably did, and I'm assuming they did this. Now, if you actually look in the end of the crank here, you'll see there's 3 bolts holding on the starter clutch on the back, and then there's another 3 holes here. Now I assume those were probably for the puller. So what I did was I took a bit of aluminium plate here and basically drilled through holes in it. Now hopefully you can see this on here. So all you need to do is take a radius of 36, draw circumference around, and then mark 3 holes off, centres of 63mm, and drill 8mm holes in there. Then that will then nicely, I've used some very rare bolts actually off of an RC, but you're not having those because they're mine. But anyway, as it happens, they do fit in there nicely. Now what you've got to do is make sure that this bolt here, okay, is removed, and you take this washer out and then put the bolt back in, leaving it out by about half a turn, okay? So there is some end float between the flywheel wheel and the bolt. And then all you need to do is put these in like so. Now you don't need to over tighten these. Now I'm trying to do this as we're running live, and I'm sure it isn't going to be easy, but let's try anyhow. So I'm just going to put these in now. Right. So now obviously if you've got some stud, use some stud with nuts on them. Okay, so tighten these. So I'm trying to do it here now, so I do apologise for this. So tighten these up, okay? Don't over tighten them. There's no need to over tighten them. All you're trying to do is put the pull on the clutch. Then all you need to do is get a mallet, okay? If you're using bolts like this, use a soft mallet. You don't want to damage these bolts because they're rarities. But with a bit of stud, use a soft mallet, otherwise you'll burr them over, and just whack them here, and this flywheel will just pop off, okay? So that's it really. So that's giving you an idea of how to remove this flywheel, okay? Now what I would say is, what I did discover is actually undo these torque bolts here first, slacken them off, don't remove them, just slacken them off, otherwise you've got to put this thing in a vise and get them undone. So basically that's the job. So I'm just going to pull this flywheel off and show you the component parts. And then you can see that. So here we go. So here's the clutch as it stands. So there's the starter on the back there. Now what I did discover is you've got to be careful in here. This is the actual bearing that catches on the starter plate. Now one of these actually dropped out, and luckily I spotted it and I put it back in. So just be a bit careful there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back in a minute once I've removed this, which I've done already, and then we'll take it from there. So we'll catch up soon. Okay, so welcome back. So we move really to the next stage, which is actually relieving the journal on the starter clutch. Basically, I've turned up a mandrel here now, tapped an 8mm hole in here. This is actually 25mm bang on the nail. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this this starter clutch here, and also the washer off of the crank from the R6 is a good start. And you'll see this will just fit on here, fits on there nicely now. So doesn't have to be a tight fit. So we're going to take this washer, and I'm going to also take one of the torque bolts off the R6 starter clutch, and we'll screw that in here. Now I'm going to tighten this up. Trying to do this one-handed isn't easy, but you have to learn to do something every day like this. So there we go. So we can see now that actually now we basically can start relieving off that bearing there, the starter clutch, and we can actually see here the damage that's been done from the original starter clutch, where it's only got 3 points of contact. This one's actually fairly badly damaged, so this will be causing some problems when the bike was started. But I'm hoping that I can relieve that now and bring that book back, so we can get this within tolerance of the R6 clutch. I forget the dimensions, but I will put those on the video as we go through. But this, off the top of my head, is between 4 and 6 thou bigger than the R6 starter clutch, so that's what we've got to remove. Now, in normal circumstances, most of you will probably take this to an engineering shop and get to grind that off. Now, what I'm going to do is attempt to do that on my lathe with some fettling, as we say in the UK. I'm not sure if the phrase the rest around the world, but we're very good at fettling in the UK as they are in South Africa, so I hope it's the rest of the world that they can do the same. Let's see how we can get on with this, and I'll come back to you shortly. So okay, I'm going to let you into one of my fettling trade secrets now. So please don't watch for you purists out there, but this is how I do things. I am an engineer, so when needs must, you find a way. That's the way it is in the world, and you'll see afterwards this will be within any tolerance that that most machine shops can achieve. Not as good, but within a reasonable tolerance for what we're trying to achieve here. So just watch this space. So that's how you do it. I'm just going to measure this now and we'll see how much more that has come off. I'm not going to video this all the way through because it will be a long process. So okay, so we've now taken off about 1.5 thou in that manoeuvre there. So there we go. I'm just going to check this round. So that's 26 on there. 26, so we're within 10 microns on here. I can't measure across the whole of the bearing surface, but that's part of the fill when you're doing it. So I'll come back to you shortly. Okay, so I'm probably about 10 minutes on from where I was before. So what I'm going to do now is just going to measure this up now. I don't know if you can see this. Let me move the light out of the way, whether you can see that dimension there. So now I'm reading basically I'm reading 42.2. And I think in Keith's document it says 42.18. Now I'm just measuring it across there, and I think we probably have a taper of probably about maybe about 10 microns across there, but this will go in the center anyhow. So that's bang on there. So that's 42.2 there. So I'm just going to try the starter clutch on now and see if that fits. So I better just rotate it round and just check that we haven't got any ovality in here. No, so that's absolutely bang on 42.2. Now I have put a slight taper on the front here as suggested by Keith. We're just now going to try this now. There we go. So now we're running there and we're latching. So that's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. So basically that's it. So I've saved having to drive 80 miles round trip and taking this to an engineering shop that would probably charge me maybe £100 or $130 to do this. That's a sort of minimum cost these days to do things in general engineering shops. So that's it. That's looking really, really nice. So I'm very pleased with that. Now I know most of you can't do this because you don't have access to the tools. But if you've got anyone who's an engineer who's got a lathe, just get them to follow this process and away to go. So good old Fettling has done the job. So I'll share this with you and we'll move to the next step. Catch up soon. Okay, so we're basically coming back to the next step now. Now, basically, if you followed the route elsewhere, you'll find that you've got to buy one of these, which is the original 900 starter clutch. Now, I've been told by Keith that the 1100 won't fit on the 900, but the 900 fit on the 1100. So I purchased this off of eBay. I forget how much it was now. It wasn't a lot of money. I think it was. I think the crank was, I don't know, £20 or something plus delivery, and I think this was about £15. So I think all in all was about 30-40 quid. So basically this is it, and I've disassembled it previously. So we've obviously taken this to size now, and we've got a lovely fit on there on the starter clutch. If I can get this on, there we go. So that's now working lovely. So that's as it should be. So now the next thing we've got to do is we then have to take this part off here. And I previously disassembled this starter clutch because normally most of you know you've got the springs and the latches in there. So on this, what we've basically got to do now is we got to drill through. So we end up with 6 holes in here. Now if you follow Keith's document, you'll find that you'll have 3 in here at the moment, but you'll see the centres here don't line up. So what you've got to do is offset that. Now if you look in here, there is a hole here, okay, which is halfway between the other 2. So if you line up that one there in the centre, then you're good to go. Now you'll also notice that this does wiggle around a bit. So what I've done is machined up a spacer here, so this doesn't wiggle around when you're trying to machine it. So at least it's packed out. So the next stage is what we got to do is line this up, and we got to drill from the other side and spot through these 6 holes here. Okay, but as having spoken to Keith, what we got to do is drill 3 of them. Okay, lock them in, and then drill these other ones tight. So they are locate. We've got 3 that are locating and 3 that are locking, if that makes sense. So leave that with me, and I'll get up on the drill press and we'll start the next process. Okay, so here we go for the next phase. I've got my pillar drill here, and you'll see that I've got two V blocks. That's basically to locate that in there like so it sits flat on these V blocks. The other thing is that I've got this spacer here, which basically means that you'll see that there you go, spacer there. When that goes in there now, that gives a nice location. So that's not rocking now. It's a smooth location in there. So basically, what we've got to do is, as I said, is locate that that hole on its own, which is there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to drill down through. So I'm just going to drop this drill punch press down a bit. No, we haven't. There we go. Wrong way around. Sorry, being stupid here. It's whilst trying to video at the same time. So you can see that we've got now a nice firm base on this now. That's not moving anywhere, so we're clear to spot through. So what I need to do is just, we'll just have to find one of these holes here. So we can just see there. If we see there, we can spot through where that centre hole is. So if we get that lined up there, then we know we're good to go on the other ones. Okay, so what I've done is I've put a 2.5mm drill through at an angle here. That'll just make sure that is located on one of the existing holes. So all these will be offset nicely now against those holes. So I'm just going to spot the first one through, and then once I spot the first one through, I'm going to then go back and drill and tap it, and then we'll line up and do the other ones. It's running a bit fast. Nice and slow. We're going to be on this as steel. I don't know how hard this steel is, but anyway. So that's that one spotted now. So I'm just going to stop this now and come back and drill these through, and I'll be right back with you. Okay, so I've now drilled that one hole which I spotted through, and I've just put one bolt in there. I think Keith said to do the three, but I think it's easier just to do one bolt just to get that through. And then what we can do is put the modified or the relieved starter clutch from the 900 on here, and just make sure that's nice and free. If that makes sense. And now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to now take that starter clutch off like that. And what we're going to do is we're then going to spot another two. So the other two of the three we're going to put through as clearance holes, and then we're going to put tight tolerance on the other three of the six, if that makes sense. One thing I'm going to do is just mask off this so we don't get any swarf going into this this bearing here. So anyway, we'll come back shortly. Okay, so now what I've basically done is I put this one bolt in here and nipped it up, but I did check that the clutch would run first. Once I'd done that, I then basically spotted back through this way with a 6.5mm drill. So 6.5mm is basically what you need to spot back through the other way. So I've done that. Now what I've done is then I've checked that this clutch, this starter clutch from the 900 slots in here nicely, which it does, and you can see, so even though it's been ground on my lathe, that runs perfectly on there, and it latches back perfectly the other way. So that's exactly what it's designed to do. It's absolutely perfect, so I'm really pleased with that. So what we're going to do now is, now we've tightened that up, and we can see that this runs nicely on here like that. What we're going to do is remove that, and we're going to spot these other three holes. So we'll have 6 holes in total. So we can be sure then that when this goes into service, this is all going to line up nicely, and that clutch is going to work perfectly. So I'll come back to you when it's finished, and then we'll look at fitting it to the bike. So we'll catch up soon. Okay, so welcome back. So the job's just about finished now. So you can see now we've got 6 holes, additional holes in here, offset from the original 3. A little bit disappointed that obviously these actually aren't smack bang in the middle, but that's purely an aesthetic thing, and yeah, it's quite difficult to actually get that lined up, but it doesn't affect the functionality. It just doesn't do my head very much good when things don't line up like that. But there we go. So this is now ready to put on there. You've got the 3 original bolts that came with the clutch, and what you need to do is purchase another 3. And I'll put the part number on here so you can see 90149808031. These are courtesy of Mr. Keith Goodwin, so thank you, Keith. Let's get this thing assembled and then we'll fit it up. Okay, so we're all ready for fitting now. Just a tip really, now is if you want to use Loctite. Now, I've now taken the decision not to use Loctite on these, and I always did on the Hondas because there's only 3 of them and they do work loose. Keith recommends Loctite, but it's just a personal decision. I've locked these up to torque, so these shouldn't ever come undone. If they do, we've got a different problem. You know, so that's personal choice. Just use some thread lock on there if you so wish. I've decided not to. It's just if I'm out in the field trying to get thread lock out, it's quite difficult. These aren't going to come undone in my personal view, but it's everyone's choice to use it, and I fully support what Keith says. But I just felt that it's just a bit step too far. It's all looking good. So basically, we now have a clutch that is free and loose on here and catches nicely. So this will go on the bike in the next hour or so, and we'll see how it operates. Catch up soon. Cheers. Okay, so welcome back. So we've moved from an R6 to a Yam Hon upgrade. So it's a combination between a 900 starter clutch and the Yamaha Sprag. So those two together hopefully will fix this problem once and for all. So I got a bit of a scrap. I might put that on eBay. We'll see where we go with that R6 crank. I mean, it all seems very nice. Seems a pity to put it in the scrap bin. But anyway, so the whole point is it's going to go on here. So next step is to remove the points, the pickup cover and the starter cover, and replace that starter clutch. So I'm going to get underway, and hopefully when I'm halfway through, I'll stop what I'm doing and take a bit more video. So we'll catch up soon. Okay, so here we go. I've removed the starter and pickup cover. There's the starter clutch behind. I didn't remove the fairing. There's a bit of oil that leaks down here, so I just put a bit of tissue here to stop it going down inside the fairing, contaminating it. So this clutch is ready to pull off now. So just one point on here. If you ever take these off, notice the spigot here. I've seen a few cranks damaged where someone's tried to force this in. If you look on there, there's a locating slot for that spigot. I've seen actually a few cranks damaged where they've actually tried to force that in. Luckily on this bike it's a fairly good fit, so there's no problem. So I'm hoping now I should just be able to wiggle this starter clutch. There we go, she's coming. And there we go. So that's off now. So this clutch is actually okay, but they don't half make a lot. They make a lot of noise when they're on high compression. So whilst this is a good one, I'll keep this for originality. The other one's going back on. So should be a few minutes, and that should all be done. So we'll catch up in a bit. Okay, so we're all back in now. It's really, just for my own peace of mind. I know people have done this before, just to check the double alignment of all the cogs and gears, and that there's full engagement on this gear with the starter motor, which there is. So there's no overlap. That's lovely. So everything's looking really good here. So hopefully we can just put it back together. I just run this around here just to make sure that's running nicely, which it is. So let's get it back together and see if she starts. Okay, so we're all back together, and to be honest, I have tried it, and what a marked difference. I wanted to try it before I videoed it, just in case there was a problem whilst I was trying to film at the same time. But actually I'm going to try and take a video at the same time as turning this old girl over. But there's no clanking and knocking and banging. Transformed. Absolutely transformed. So I'd recommend any of you who have an RC that ride on a regular basis and you're not looking for originality, to do this upgrade. And remember, you can still keep your original starter clutch put back on, but for day-to-day riding, this is why I've done this. This is going to be my daily bike. So so thank you, Keith, for the advice and the introduction to this, and helping me source the parts. I've added to what you've done, and you know, the video will hopefully be useful for those guys that are going to do it going forward. So catch up soon.